Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel, Aussie Dad Life. Thanks for joining me. Another night out here in the garage on lockdown. I think we're week 3, maybe week 4, I've lost count. Hope you're all doing okay and surviving the best you can, getting out there, talking to the friends, talking to the family. But thought I'd jump out in the garage, make a video, give me something to do. Talked about it in some of my other videos. I was going to do a review on the welder, so tonight's the night. As you've seen in the other videos, I'm pretty much a home gamer in these sorts of things. So I wanted a welder that I could use that would be literally, click and start welding. Didn't have to muck about with gas bottles, running out of that, special wire, and so on. Looked at the stick welders, but put in a Christmas request, and this is what turned up. So it's a CIGWELD 135 MIG. It can do gas, it can do gasless. I'm running it on gasless wire. And so far it runs off a 10 amp plug, so you don't need any special plug, no 3-phase power. Just runs off a standard power point here in Australia. It's a ripper of a little device. Fairly heavy, as all welders are. It's got the settings. It goes from 1 to 10 on the wire speed feed, and then the power of 1 to 4. Now, I'm not sure, there's a little map which I'll take you through in here of what they sort of break down and what sort of size metal that it welds. Now, retail on these, I've seen them on special from anywhere from around 200-ish, 250, all the way up to what they are now. They're around $400. So I went with the CIGWELD mainly for the brand. You can buy all sorts of different ones out there, but I just stuck with something that I know if it breaks down, there's plenty of places you can take it to get looked at. And also I thought, being a CIGWELD, it should have a fairly good reliability factor about it. And because I use it pretty sparingly, I'm hoping it should last me a hell of a long time here in the workshop. So what I'll do now is I'll go through the insides of it with you. Now, before we jump into that, come with a whole heap of bunch of parts, replacement tips, wire feed, different size wire feed. So I think it came from all the way to a 0.6 up to a 1.2 millimeter wire that it can run. I currently just run it on 0.9 gasless wire, fluxless core wire, I think that's what it's called. From Bunnings, you can get all different thicknesses and meterage rolls. So what I'll do now is I'll jump in and I'll show you the side part where it tells you what sort of size metal and everything else that you need to have a look at. Everything's fairly heavy duty about it. I don't treat my tools especially kindly out in the shop. They do get a bit of a hard life, especially this thing. I've made a couple of things with this so far. I made a roof rack for my car, and I've also made a cage that goes on top of my trailer, which you probably would have seen in my 6x4 trailer video. That was the first project that I undertook with this, just to get the feel of welding, making sure everything goes okay, practicing, etc., because you don't really want to punch into some major structural welding if you've never done it before, which I hadn't. So yeah, overall I think it's a pretty good little jigger. Earth, nothing fancy, pretty light duty earth, but it welds pretty good as long as you keep all your welds clean where you're going to do your welds. It goes along okay, and I'll show you some welds later on. I'll put my welding skills up onto the power of the internet, so God help us what the comments will be. Anyway, all right, let's jump in and have a look on the inside. All right, so to have a look inside it, I'll just move these out of the way. You just flick this little lever up, and this is where you get into it to tells you how to set it up, how to configure your welder depending on what sort of material you're welding, whether it's aluminium or steel, if you're using gas, gasless. Also is where the wire and everything is configured, and it's all very, very straightforward. So I'll bring you in pretty close now, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. All right, so as you can see here, you've got, if you're welding just mild steel, it's got the millimeter size of the steel that you're wanting to weld. So it then tells you the output voltage that you want. So that's your 1 to 4 on the front of the device, and then the wire speed that you should set it at. Now, these are just general recommendations. What I always do every time I'm doing any project is I will, do some test welds to make sure I've got it right. So you maybe have to play with the voltage and the wire speed to get where you want it to be. Now, obviously, the other important thing is to make sure that you've got the right polarity depending on what you're welding. So that's with gas. Without gas, you can see over here, it's actually switched around. So you need to just make sure you've got the right stuff. And then obviously you've got aluminium and you've got stainless steel. Now, I pretty much only weld with mild steel gasless. So these are what my settings I look at whenever I go to start welding, etc. Now, you can see here it recommends a 0.8. I just use 0.9 because I think that's all they had at Bunnings and seems to go all right. Now, the welding stuff that I use is called Post-weld. It's just a standard. We'll drop down and we'll have a look. All right, so I hope you can see everything there. Like I said, we've got the polarity matching what's on the guide. Now, to change the wire and the feeds, it's pretty simple. All you need to do is undo this little grub screw here. Just loosen that off, and then that swings out, and then you can actually flip that out and lift that up. And you would feed your wire through, making sure it goes into the hole when you're having to reseat it. It's sitting on the actual little grooves. Once it's in, push it down, lock it in, give that a couple of turns so it's nice and tight, and then you start squeezing the trigger on the gun and it will start feeding through. And fingers crossed it comes out the other end all nice and smooth. So obviously that's just a butterfly screw. You slap it on, job done, don't have to worry about it. And I think this is a 1 kilo roll that I've got, so that should last me quite a few different projects. And pretty straightforward. Then you're pretty much ready to get into it, so let's go and have a go. Alright, so before we start welding, I thought I'd better just quickly run over the helmet, the gear that I use. So I bought a CIGWELD helmet. I think these are around $100, auto darkening. You can adjust the sensitivity, you can adjust the darkness levels, you can set it up for if you're wanting to do welding or grinding. You know, seems to work okay. I've never been flashed or blinded by it from what I can tell, with it not being quick enough or anything. I know you can spend a lot of money on helmets. Once again, backyarder, homeowner, just doing the bare minimum sort of welding. This seems to do a pretty good job, and also making sure I put on the right gloves. So once I work out where I've stashed them, they're here. Here we go. So some good thick heavy duty welding gloves. No idea on the cost of those, but 15, 20 bucks, something like that. So I made my roof rack out of this box tube steel. Now I think this is 1.6 millimeter steel. And I've also got some flat bar here, which looks to be around 3 mil as well. So based off what this says here, so a 3 mil or 1.6 is telling me I should be on output voltage of 1 with a wire speed of 5. So because I'm sort of welding in the two, and I'm just going to do a butt weld, I think that's the terminology. Once again, no idea. Just stick it onto the bit of metal and hope for the best. I'm going to put it on 2 as an output voltage, and I'm going to put it on the, what do we got here? I'm going to put it on about 6, just see how that goes and see if it burns through, and then if it does, well, then I can make an adjustment and go back and forth and play around with it. Alright, so as you can see here, I've just got this clamped on. I'm just going to run a bead down the side and we'll see what it looks like comes out now. As you can see, I haven't taken any of the blue off, and the other bit of flat bar is pretty good. There's no real corrosion or anything like that, so I'll just hook straight in. You can see what the welds come out like. Alright, so I'll stop and have a look at that, see if it's let me bring some light in and have a look. Now, as you can see there, it's not very good. It's got a lot of porosity in it. So I think I need to build it up a bit more. I think the speed's okay. just need to take my time a little bit more on it. So once again, just getting back into the swing of things. So my settings are on 2 and 6 according to what the device said. So I'll keep going. So as you can see there, I blew through the side of it, which probably means that I'm running it a bit hot. I'm just having a look down it. Yeah, so it looks like it's probably running a little bit on the hot side. So I took my time a little bit more there and let it build up, but it has chewed right through that. So once again, good thing to just back off the power, play around with it, see what happens. I'm going to wind it. I'm going to put it back to a 1. Just put it back to about 5.5 on the speed. I'll flip it around and don't need those clamps anymore. And we'll see what happens. Alright, so I'll take a look at this one. Now, as you can see, it does make a fair bit of spatter mess, you know, and it puts out a few fumes, so keep the doors open and so on. Now, having a look at that, you know, there are a few spots there that I've missed. Looking through there, I can see that the heat penetration is, you know, it's nearly like it's through, but it hasn't cut away compared to the other one. Let me just see if I can get you down into here. So as you can see there, if I move it across slightly, you can see it's sort of chewed out the inside of that. Whereas the other side, which is up the end there, you can see it's starting to put the heat through. It's got the heat through it, but it hasn't actually cut the metal. So, you know, 2's obviously too much. 1's the right amount. And then you just got to now play with the old wire feed to get it where you want it to go. So I'll continue along now, see if I can lay down a little bit better a bead. Might just back the feed off just a touch. And we're done. So, once again, not the greatest of welds. In fact, it's pretty terrible. So I'll bring you in for a bit of a close-up on how poorly those welds have been done compared to the other side, where it looks a little bit better, but you know, I think it was going a bit too hot, and it's chewed through the steel, which obviously I don't think you want. Alright, so gonna just now do a round, see if my welding gets a little bit better as I step back into it, considering I haven't actually welded for the last couple of months. We'll have a look and see what it comes out like. Alright, so just bring you in, have a look. Now, we'll break out the sander and so on. We'll take it back and see what it come out like. Alright, let's bring some light into the picture. So, look, you know, definitely not the prettiest. But I'll do a bit of a stress test on it, see how it goes. Alright, I've got some solid steel here. What does it say? 12 mil. I'll throw it in here and see if I can bend it, break it. I'll actually have to move that up in the vise because it'll flex. You can see that it just started to twist the steel. It's not going anywhere. Overall, I think it will do the job for whatever I need to do on the home gamer stuff. Alright, so as you can see, works alright. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple to use. Just got to play around with the settings to get it to weld where you want it to, depending on the sort of material that you want. And like I said, I've done a couple of big projects. I'll try and get some photos up of those so you can have a bit of a look at. But it's just a handy little tool that if you want to come out and whip something up, some shelving, etc. Overall, I think for the money and for the amount of times that you use it, it's sort of a set and forget sort of a tool. You don't have to worry about it, and when you do have it, it's there. You can use it and put it away and not worry about it again. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. Put my welding out there on display, so I'm sure I'm going to get absolutely roasted, but is what it is. Happy to do that. Hope you have a great night. Keep safe, everybody. Let's get through this COVID and get back to a normal life so we can start getting out and doing some real things again. And I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.